Hi there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Being Human Hidden Depths with myself, Jill Tiny. And this is a Collaboration Global podcast. And I'm delighted to say one of our members is having a revisit. The amount of times I say on this podcast, we've spoken about so much, we really should carry on the conversation and have part two. Well, Mitali Deypurkaystha is going to be doing part two today. So welcome, Mitali. So lovely to have you.
Thank you for having me back.
Awesome. Now we can get into the nitty gritty, which is what I love. You are known as the vegan publisher. Now, when I first saw that, I must admit, I thought, does she only work with vegans? And it's like, I'm sort of vegan, but I'm not quite there. She probably wouldn't want to work with me because occasionally I have a bit of chicken or a bit of fish. So it's like, oh no. But since I've known you, obviously, you are passionate about why you are vegan and why the world should be vegan. But it doesn't necessarily stop you from working with us heathens that aren't quite there yet.
I wouldn't exactly class you as heathens, but your words, not mine. But okay.
So you are happy to work with all sorts of people, aren't you? What's the defining factor of somebody you'd say, yes, I'll work with you, but no, I won't work with you? Is it somebody that eats steak on a Friday night, or
It's not about whether someone eats steak on a Friday night. I'd prefer they didn't, because it makes me shudder. But that's what I look for. What I'm looking for from people is that same passion to do something good in the world. Now, the way I choose to be the best person that I can be is to be vegan. I truly believe that the reason it's now 2024, and we still as human beings cannot get along with each other. We've now got this awful thing. I mean, the last 3 years we've been watching in horror at our TV screens with what's been happening in the Ukraine. And in the last 6 months, now it's in Gaza. And it's like, oh my God. And it's like seeing the same nonsense again and again and again. And I truly believe the reason why we will never be able to get on with each other, we will always see differences. The root cause of that is we start off as children being taught that animals are lesser than us, and we categorize animals into food, test subjects, hunting, pests, animals to play sports with, whether against each other or racing against each other. We categorize straight away without any true meaning. It doesn't make any meaning. Say we were categorizing in terms of intelligence. Well, we can debate about whether that's right or wrong, but at least there'll be some kind of, there's logic in there. But where's the logic when pigs are more intelligent than dogs, but we eat pigs and a dog is man's best friend? Where's the logic in cuddling cats and doing anything for them, but rats, which are more intelligent than cats, they're either pests or to be tested on in labs? So it just does, it's literally categorization for the sake of categorization. And I believe that is the building block of all the horrors that happen between human beings. The way we categorize each other in terms of race, skin color, gender, sexuality, etc., etc. So that's how I show up. However, I'm not so narcissistic, Jill, that I think the way that I show up as the best human being in the world is how other people should show up as the best human being in the world. I've published people, for example, there's a lady who is due to publish a book in the next few weeks. She is now a life coach, but she was a midwife for over 20 years. She has saved so many women's and babies' lives that she doesn't remember the number anymore. Oh, wow. She says in the NHS, what you generally do is remember your first 10, and then after that, it becomes a bit of a blur. So she doesn't really know. This lady is not vegan. Should I now tell this wonderful lady who saved all of these people's lives, I'm sorry, you're not a good enough human being to work with me? That's ridiculous. So What I'm looking for is someone who has the same level of passion as me to do something good in the world. It doesn't have to be through veganism. So you could be a social entrepreneur, you could be a B Corp founder, an ethical business owner, you could be focused on human rights instead of animal rights, you could be focused on the planet and making sure the planet still exists in a century's time, because at the moment it doesn't look like it's going to in any way that we'd want it to exist. So that's all I'm looking for, that same level of passion. You don't have to be vegan, but you have to match my passion in wanting to do the right thing, whatever your right thing is, and helping people. That's not just your nearest and dearest in you. A lot of people seem to be very, I have a real bugbear with people who sort of like, you know, want to get brownie points because they've been a great father or a great mother. And you're like, you mean the children that you brought into the world for your reasons? Nobody else on the planet asked you to bring more human beings onto this. You did it yourself, and then you want accolades for doing what you're meant to be doing as a parent or as a neighbor or as a family member. That's just normal human being, decent human being behavior. It's going beyond that. What are you doing that doesn't immediately benefit you? You know, are you helping human beings on the other side of the planet that you might never even meet? Are you helping the truly voiceless animals? Are you helping the planet as a whole? That's what I'm looking for, essentially.
Well, I'm just going to move the little soapbox out the way. Thank you. But I totally get where you're coming from. And the thing is, by you declaring your passion, which is I absolutely love, you're actually opening the door for people that are thinking about it and curious about it, and possibly 90% there but haven't gone the whole 100%, because you're available for them to ask those kind of questions and kind of, so what did you do it and how did it start and all those kind of things. So I love your passion of what you're about, and also the people that you want to attract, because it's the same as Collaboration Global. We want people that are up to something.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
I think that's why I joined Kogel, because I knew that. I was like, okay, the people here, whereas normally in other places I kind of have to sift through. It's certainly become better since I've rebranded as the vegan publisher. Before that, my business was called Let's Tell You Story Publishing.
Right.
Very, you know, anybody can answer. Exactly. So there was a lot of sifting that I needed to do. Once I rebranded as the vegan publisher, which will be now coming up to 3 years ago now, it's been huge. I mean, it's really made a difference. I do sometimes have to explain to people, no, I don't just work with vegans, but people are aware of the passion. They're aware that this isn't just somebody, we were discussing this before, this isn't just somebody who you just throw a manuscript at and they'll publish it because that's their job. It's like I actually say, no, this isn't good enough, or no, I don't really want to publish this book because I don't really like the topic, or, you know, that there's somebody who's actually vetting it, as opposed to just throw a manuscript at me and I will publish it for you.
Well, that's the difference between people that just do it because there's income and there's money in it for them, and there's people that do it that care. And also, if you publish a book that doesn't live up to your values, your reputation is going to be damaged.
That's it. I mean, that's kind of, it was quite scary, you know, rebranding as the vegan publisher. And one of the reasons I was scared a little bit was I am kind of putting my head above the parapet and saying, you know, these are my morals, these are my ethics. So, I mean, you'll be aware that I had a program last year that I've actually since closed down. Financially did very well for me. But unfortunately, from an impact point of view, it was a subscription service. So people could join for something nominal. I think I was charging under £50 a month. And they get video step-by-step training showing them how to plan and write the book. Because it was so affordable, lots of people joined up. But so financially, it was doing wonderfully for me. But when I, halfway through the year in 2023, when I really looked at the impact the program was making, I had nearly 80 budding authors in the program. Less than 11 had actually started, and out of 11, only 3 of them were making any viable progress.
Oh, wow.
So financially, I'm sitting pretty. There are people who are paying me around about £50 a month for me to really do not much at all, I guess. But from an impact point of view, where are these books coming out? And that's the difference between being the founder of the vegan publisher and the founder of a standard publishing company. In that, a standard publishing company would say, well, as long as they're paying us.
And it's up to you, you know, if you don't want to be bothered to write your book, then it's fine.
Exactly. As long as we're providing you the materials and everything that you need, what you do with it doesn't really matter. Whereas I have to hold myself to a much higher standard and say, but as the founder of the Vegan Publisher, I'm responsible for publishing as many books as possible that talk about things that are wrong in this world and the right way we should go about doing things. So if people are not writing books and not publishing books, I'm winning, but impact wise, I'm utterly failing. And that's why I nixed that program, because I just thought this is not working for me.
That really indicates the values that you've got, because if there was bad press out there from somebody on that program because they weren't achieving what they thought they should achieve, excuse me, that would have then knocked, as I say, your reputation. But because you've got high standards, then there's going to be no bad press out there. I mean, obviously we're always going to have one person somewhere that's disgruntled about us, but there's less likely to be bad press out there on internet saying something about you. So your values around veganism are held fast, and people will listen to you because your reputation is strong, which is
Well, I really do hope that at some point, I think there's a few vegans that kind of bring the entire movement down, but you have that with every kind of movement. You always have this vocal minority that just make it difficult for all of us. Pardon me, my mother is cooking in the background, and she's actually got spices on the go, so it's going right down to the back of my throat. I should have told her I was doing this. I'm sure she would have waited for an hour before she started cooking her various
bag, please.
I should. I mean, she's an amazing cook, an utterly amazing cook. I've tried copying her. My food never tastes as good. I don't know what she does. I follow it to a T. Still doesn't taste like her food. She just does something to it.
She puts her mother's love into it. That's what it is.
That's what it is. I need to have a child, Jill, just to cook better. I'm not sure if my child would be very happy if he or she wanted to ask me, why did you have me? Well, I wanted to cook better curries. That's the only reason I had you. I don't think that's a very good idea to have a child just for that reason.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah, she would. So yes, where was I?
Well, let me start the next thing I really want to find out about, because obviously having published a few books myself, I've been through the pain barrier. I wish I had known you when I started, honestly. And I know what it's like to go it alone and to get other support along the way.
Yeah.
When somebody comes to you and says, I want to write a book, and they're so keen, and it's like, yes, I'm ready to do it. How do you find out, what's your test process to go, yes, I like what they're doing, and yes, I think they're going to do it, and they've got a good idea here? What straw poll do you go to?
Well, the biggest thing I do, and it surprises a lot of people who have their first conversation with me, is I try to go right to the end result. So instead of discussing the book, which is what they're really eager to talk to me about, I kind of disappoint them a little bit and say, okay, well, let's just park that. We will come back to that. But tell me, if I was to wave a magic wand and you're now a published author, what the hell are you doing with your book? Tell me what the world looks like with you as a published author. And a lot of the times I haven't even visualized it, which worries me, because if you don't visualize the end result, you'll get to somewhere. It might not be where you really want to get to, but you'll end up somewhere. You've really got to visualize what you want and then work your way backwards from that. I also kind of visualize it almost like I'm my own satellite navigation system. If you think about it, when you want to end up somewhere and you want to end up in the right place, you put in the postcode of the end destination, and then it works its way backwards to where you are and gives you the best route. That's essentially what you have to do with a book. So the way I gauge whether someone is ready to write a book for thought leadership, because that's the other key thing. I'm not helping people write books for vanity reasons or because it's their bucket list. It's like, I don't really give a damn about your bucket list. Sorry, but I just don't. We all have bucket lists. You're not special. It's nothing to do with me, what your bucket list is. I'm not really interested in helping people write a book because, I really just want to write a book. I'm wanting to help people who've got a bigger message. Chances are they're already doing something. So it's something to do with their business or brand or the career. So they're already doing something. Like I said, I generally tend to work with social entrepreneurs, B Corp founders, ethical business owners, sustainability practitioners. So people like that. So they're usually already doing something, but they really now want to go to that next level. They want to be seen as a thought leader. They want to, people have different motivations, but it could be that they want to become a keynote speaker now and really talk to large crowds about this. It could be that they want to use their book to open doors to certain corporations and get them to change. If you look at the statistics, the biggest corporations in this, so I think it's the top 20 corporations in the world are responsible for over 80% of all of the pollution that's happening in the world.
Oh
So
my
if you could
goodness.
just get into one of those corporations, making changes there,
Yeah.
that will have more impact than turning millions of people vegan, for example. Can you see what I mean? So it's kind of almost choosing a battle. So that could be a motivation, but you want to be taken seriously by by these corporations. So therefore, writing a book is a shortcut to being taken seriously. So, pardon me, mother spy. I don't know what your excuse is, because unless we've now got smell-o-vision and you're
Yeah.
now able to smell my mother's cooking
Lovely.
through
Lovely.
Zoom.
So
Sorry, listeners, because we're talking. Yeah, there we go.
so going back to here we go. Going back to the fact that they kind of see their vision of where they want to go. I think also I was naive enough to think that the writing of it was the big part.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
knew that I set for the very first book, I did the 10 weeks, 3 hours a week. And I did all the usual tricks and trades to make sure that I did that. I was very disciplined because I knew I had a 10-week window. So if I didn't get the first draft written in that 10 weeks, then it was going to be complicated to get it all done. And I kind of assumed at that point naively that that was the hard work.
Yeah.
Having written 3 more since then, I kind of know that there's so much more to it than that. So do you give people a reality shock when they're at that dreaming, like, oh, I want to write a book and it's going to be this and it's going to, and then I'm going to be able to be on the speaker circuit and then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. So they've got their dream and their vision. Do you go, and this is how hard it's going to be, or do you kind of open the door a little bit at a time so you don't freak them out?
I think I just rip off the plaster, really. I'd rather be honest. The truth is a lot of people. I'm in a very strange industry in that in most other sort of B2B services, I guess you would call me, it's usually you're trying to convince people why they need your services, your products, whatever it is. Whereas I'm in a really weird industry where most people kind of have some kind of dream about writing a book. So there's not really much need for me to convince people to write a book. However, and this is the harsh reality, most people should not write a book. It's as simple as that. It's one or two reasons. Either what you've got to say isn't really all as important as you think it is. It's not really something that's going to change, people's minds or on anything. So again, you get a lot of these publishers now, they're just literally publishing all these business books from any business owner, and they're just publishing books. And I'm just like, do we really need yet another how to do sales book?
Yeah.
Do we really need any more of that? I mean, Amazon, and if you're still going into Waterstones, they're all washed with books like that. Do we need any more? Are you actually adding anything more to the table? Probably not. So either your idea isn't all that good, or the other reason I tend to find is the idea is really, really good, but this person is in a very nascent part of their career. And I wouldn't say writing a book is a good idea right at the beginning, unless I do have a gentleman at the moment who started in January, and I've had several clients in the past who launched a business with their book.
Right.
But the reason why they were able to do that is, first of all, even though the business is new, they're not really wet behind the ears. What they've usually done is they've worked in a similar capacity in a corporation somewhere, and now they're going solo. So they're not really wet behind the ears. They know that industry. And secondly, they've done quite well for themselves in their previous career. So they've got money saved up, money they can spend on getting proper coaching from someone like me, money they can spend on getting the book done right. I'm amazed how many authors I meet who tell me they've written an amazing book and the book has done nothing for them. I go onto Amazon and I'm just shuddering looking at it and going, well, the cover looks like it's been knocked up together on Canva.
Yeah.
I'll download the Kindle. There's all manner of formatting nonsense happening on with the Kindle. I get the paperback. It just feels tacky. Yeah. And I'm just thinking it's not been done professionally. People do judge a book by its cover and the way it feels. Sadly, we live in that world. I wish we lived in a world where content was king. It isn't. How you present that content can be sometimes more important than the content itself. So it's got to be done right. That involves money.
Yeah.
You need a professional editor, professional designer, formatter, typesetter, etc., etc. And then even after the fact, you need to then think about, well, how are you going to leverage your book? Now, if you're going to leverage your book in terms of using it to open doors with certain corporates, for example, that's not going to cost you much. You just print the books out, create some handwritten notes and send them out in the mail. Easy. But if you actually want to become a keynote speaker, if you want to be getting media attention, well, guess what? Now you need social media experts, you need PR experts, and all these wonderful people, they're in my team. But sadly, they can't live on air. They actually involve you. They need you to pay them. So you need a certain amount of money to make this project really take legs, which is what the whole point of these books is, to turn you into a thought leader. You need that budget and that tenacity to really give it legs for the first year or two, really. And then after that, what I tend to find with a lot of my clients is after about a year of publishing and we're really pushing them, we're doing the marketing and the PR, then we do get to this really nice point. I always kind of imagine like a boulder running down the hill. It takes ages to push it, but once you start building momentum, the boulder just runs down the hill by itself without you pushing it. That's what happens with some of my clients, where after a year, we now have, news agencies and journalists calling up and saying, hey, can we have this author? Can they come and, can we do an interview with them? Or can we get a quote from them for this newspaper? Or, but that's the dream. You don't just,
but that doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah, unfortunately, as talented as I am as a woman, I can't helicopter you into that situation. We've got work to do to get you to that situation.
And you can't make somebody go viral in an instant. As you say, it takes that working. What's really interesting is when I was looking to get someone to help me with my second book, I went through various people that I could find to help me and support me, and the cost was really quite interesting, where a lot of them didn't factor into all of these extra things. So they give you that's the core price, and you think, oh, okay, that's quite reasonable. Does that include editing? Oh no. What about proofreading? No. What about my ISBN? No. Oh, design? Oh no, you can do that on Canva. And it's like, oh, okay, so this is like very flippy floppy. And you go to the other end of the scale, and they charge you so much. It's like, I think I need a mortgage to take out for that. That's ridiculous. I know one person that was willing to do all of the things that I needed to have done by professionals, and she was looking at like £25,000-30,000.
Yeah.
And I was like, hang on, I can't. And you end up doing as much of it as you can yourself. Now I know there's that kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. And if you know what your end game is, kind of where the money's going to come back from to pay for what you've done. It is, you've got to do some of the stuff first before
That's
do the rest of it. But it's a shock how much there is to be paid for, because I thought to myself, for editing, how much, I'm a pretty good writer, I probably don't need much editing. Surprisingly, you do.
Of
course, you can't do your own proofreading. Nobody can do that. If anyone's trying, then don't be so silly. And having a designer do the front cover, I have no design skills whatsoever, and people that were trying to support me, I didn't even know, is this good, isn't this good? So it's to have somebody that has experience. I know one person that was helping people with books, and every book that they churned out, for whoever they churned it out, whatever the topic was, looked like it was like, could have been on their library shelf, like 20 of the same, but they're all by different authors.
I've seen that. There's a few covers I've seen which is just the same cover with a few things moved around. I'm like, I don't want my book cover to just be this generic thing that basically they've got a template. That's what they're doing. They've got a template and they're just moving a few things around. And it's like, it's little things like that. They give the game away. Like I said, if I was a publisher that was just helping people publish books, then I could probably, I could even have a range of programs. I could literally go from charging people under £1,000 to having a £25,000 program, and literally be like, what do you want? What's your budget? And we will do it at that level. Because all I care at that point, all I would care about is just publishing books, not about impact. Whereas as the founder of the Vegan Publisher, my goal isn't just to publish as many books as possible. It's to publish books that position people, important people who really do need a bigger voice when it comes to things like human ethics, animal ethics, how we're treating the planet, etc. Pardon me. That's, we have to do this right. It has to be done right. And that's one of the reasons why I nixed the program that I had last year, because I just thought, well, these people, first of all, they're not even getting all that far into the program. And secondly, I think a lot of these people got into the program because they thought, oh, £50 a month, I can afford that. Am I really helping them? Because even if they did write a book, a lot of these people, do they have the budget for marketing and PR? And that's probably not. If all they can really afford is £50 a month, then what kind of budget? So, pardon me, God, my mother, she really is cooking up a storm, which I'm looking forward to eating later on this evening. Right now,
talking about
my throat is dying at the moment, but later on, my stomach is going to be very, very happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the biggest thing, to answer your question, the biggest thing I'm looking for is that idea's got to be great. There's something that is really something to say. But secondly, the other thing is, are you in the right point of your career? Usually you already have quite a successful business.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a millionaire or anything like that, but you're doing well. And you're now thinking, how do I go to that next level now? I want to really stand above and beyond my competitors. I want to be seen as a voice to be listened to in my industry. You want to go that next level. The only people that I've ever worked with who are right at the beginning of their business or brand or nonprofit, whatever they have, is, like I said, people are not really wet behind the ears. They've got a background doing what they're doing, but elsewhere, but now they're going solo. Or maybe they had a previous business and this is now their second business. So they've got money behind them and they've got that tenacity behind them.
And they know why they're spending that money on that project, because they know the impact it's going to have. One of the things that I failed to do back in the day was to put funds aside for the marketing afterwards. And I ended up doing a lot of it myself. And that just, one, takes a hell of a lot of time.
Yeah.
And two, I was kind of, there is a phrase, something in the wind. I didn't know which way I was pointing, so I didn't know what impact I was having. So strategic ideas behind it. It was like, I just got to tell as many people as possible. And it was like, bash, get it out there as quickly as I could to make some sort of impact. And so I did okay, but I didn't have the impact. Now, when you imagine that having a book basically identifies you as an authority because you're an author in your field, so people need to be able to find it easily and make sure that they've got access to it and actually be able to pick it up and read it quite simply, whether that's posting it in the post or telling people about it on your newsletter or whatever. And that again takes effort. So for me, the getting it written in hindsight, looking back, easy part, easy peasy. You're just
that's the middle part. I always jokingly say, Jill, a lot of people call me a book writing consultant, or sometimes I get like a writing coach. And I mean, I go by that because I guess that's how I'm known. So I'm okay with that. But it makes me laugh because I think, well, I'm not really helping people write. It's not like I'm some kind of, physiologist and you've lost the use of your fingers. So I now need to help you start using your fingers again and get you writing again. You learned how to write when you're 4 or 5 years old. So I'm not actually helping you write. You can do that by yourself and you've been doing it for decades. What I'm actually helping you do is the either end, which is the hard bit, the beginning bit, which is really, is this a book idea? How do I structure this idea? How do I make sure this book really will work hard for me and do what I wanted to do, but also doesn't become a vanity project where it's all about you. You got to sit there and think about, what does your reader want from you? Your reader isn't reading a book just to make you happy. They're reading a book because for their reasons. And the reason they picked up this book is they feel your book is going to help them in some way. So if you don't give them that thing, you're going to end up with a load of 1 and 2-star reviews. So that's not going to do anything for your thought leadership goals. So we got to sit there and work that out. We got to make sure the book works for you and works for your readers. And then the last bit, the leveraging, the marketing, the PR, getting the book out there. And like you said, I know exactly which phrase you're talking about. I won't use the actual word. I know which phrase you're talking about. And yeah, I've been guilty of that as well. It's just sort of like, I'll just get it out to loads of people. It's not about getting out to loads of people. You'll experience this in social media as well. You get people who sort of like, I need to be on Facebook and LinkedIn. And so then they'll just create a post and they'll put it everywhere. Now, there's nothing wrong with repurposing. Repurposing is actually very clever. But repurposing, not just literally reusing.
No.
You have to repurpose. So, and you have to, for example, with my social media, I really, truly focus on LinkedIn. That is my key social media platform. Yes, are some of my posts repurposed on other social media platforms? Yes, they are. They're not even optimized for those platforms. I don't really care. Then that's just their shop windows. If people accidentally find me, then at least I've got some kind of presence on those platforms. That's it. But I focus on LinkedIn, and I found I've had much more success focusing on one social media platform and making that work than spreading myself too thin. It's the same with all kinds of marketing. It's the same with all kinds of PR. You could literally just send your press release out to 200 newspapers. Great. You get a PR expert. They may write you a press release and only send it out to under 10 newspapers. But these are newspapers they know would love your story. They probably have a relationship with the editor, so they can put in a good word for you, and you get tons of coverage just from maybe 5 or 6 publications. Then you emailing out 200 publications with a press release. So it really is, you know,
and what
it's quality over quantity.
What would you rather do? Email out and do that effort of 200 publications and get average lukewarm results, or pay someone who's a specialist in PR?
But that actually goes back, Jill, to what I was talking about. You know, you really need to be in the right space, sort of financially, and sort of mentally and business wise or brand wise to write a book. This isn't, like I said, if you don't have much of a budget and you're right at the beginning of a business, you kind of need to make sure you need to make your business sing first. So I've even turned people away, and I've said, you should be focusing on your business. You should be. I've had some people who literally just, the business just started and they don't have a budget to really be doing what they think they want to be doing. And I just said, you do realize, again, me just ripping off the plaster when I shouldn't, maybe be nicer. So you do realize most businesses fail within the first 2 years.
What new sweet.
Yeah, anti-sweet. I'm a cruel to be kind of woman.
Yeah, it works.
Because I'd rather they get to, because there will be other publishers, as you've already mentioned, who will happily take whatever money they do have. If they see that someone's on a budget, if someone says, I only have £1,000, they will whip up some kind of program for £1,000, but won't give them what they actually need. So then you're just taking money from somebody for what?
But also, there are people that will come to you and they have just started their business and they've been told, oh, get your book first, then you can do this, then you can do that, and then you'll create a successful business. They think that's all hinged on that. And it's a strategy that they want to follow because somebody's told them that's what works, without the actual realization that, well, you've got to have something good to say. I've seen a 22-year-old writing a book that's obviously come from his parents. And it's like, you know, what you just wet behind the ears. How can you be talking about life stories and things that are going on and around business when you haven't even started your first business yet, let alone anything else? So
it then makes a bit of a mockery of the whole authority, thought leadership, all that kind of thing. I mean, writing a book is a shortcut for thought leadership, but it's a shortcut. It's not a miracle worker.
It's a shortcut. It takes a lot of effort. It really does.
Oh yes, it does. Writing a book does take effort, but I think what I mean by shortcut is to be given that recognition. You know, I mean, I remember before the pandemic, I used to do a lot of talks, and I would always say, whenever I was doing sort of like keynote speaking or anything, that sort of thing, I would always ask people and say, well, if somebody, you know, sidled up to you and said, hey, I've got a YouTube channel, you wouldn't bat an eyelid. You would be like, great, everyone's got YouTube. What a big, someone's got to follow it up with, oh, I've got 500,000 subscribers. Then your ears prick up. It's like, oh, tell me about you. What's it all about? What do you know? Or if somebody says they've got a blog, again, you don't give a flying one. It's like, oh, everyone's got teenagers have blogs, kids have blogs now. It's not a big deal until they follow it up with you know, oh, I get 20,000 unique hits every month. Then you go, okay, tell me about your blog. But if you just say you're a professionally published author, if you can follow it up with numbers, if you can follow it up with, oh, I was a bestseller in the UK, even better, but you don't have to. Just the fact that you're a professionally published author on a particular subject, that is easy enough for people to think this person knows what they're talking about. And so it is a shortcut from that point of view, but yeah.
But then, but yes, they know what they're talking about, but the effort that's put in is a long period of time. So if you're just looking for new clients and you think this is a shortcut to get them, you might be better off going and doing the traditional so many leads a week, so many, you know, all of that kind of churn for your sales.
Even with a book. Yeah, I always say a book in itself is a book is a catalyst.
Yes.
It's a catalyst for whatever you're doing. So one of the biggest questions I always get from people is like, well, what should I do with my book? And I always say, well, first of all, to get the fastest return on investment, whether in terms of time and money and everything that you spent on this book, the fastest return on investment is to do what you're already doing, but throw a book into the mix. So, I mean, I'll give you some examples. I got one lady over in the US, and she does a lot of Google ads. So that's her big lead generation. So she's a life coach. So people put in life coach and her state where she lives.
Yeah.
And then you get a list of all these life coaches. Now, what she used to do before is a general ad, saying, hey, I'm an awesome life coach. But guess what? All the other life coaches are saying, hey, I'm an awesome life coach. Of course, they're going to say that. They're not going to say they're a terrible life coach. So it was very generic. She actually did quite well. She spent a lot of money on it. So she would always make sure she's in the top 3 that are shown on the ads. But, she had stiff competition as well from other life coaches who were also spending similar amounts of money. Mm-hmm. When she finished writing her book with me, she changed her advert, and she changed it to how to pick a great life coach for your needs. Free book. She still cleans up. Because think about it. You see 5 adverts on Google and you're looking for a life coach wherever you live, and all the others are saying, hey, I'm awesome. Mm-hmm. And you get one saying a free book that allow you to pick the best life coach. When you actually sat there worrying about, well, which life coach should I pick? They all seem amazing. You click on, and basically she had it as I think it was like $5.99 postage and packaging, but the book was free. In other words, $5.99 actually paid for it to print and send it out. So she was not losing any money. Yeah. She cleaned up. So she had found a way of utilizing the book in what she was already doing. I've had clients who do direct mail. And what they've done is with targeted lists, they've sent a copy of their book instead of before they used to be, it's called, have you ever heard of the term lumpy mail?
No.
So this is like an old tactic, but still works really well. Probably works better now. What you do is like, you'll remember the days of junk mail. We don't even get much of it now. We don't even get much mail at all now. But you'd get mail and you kind of look at it and be like, oh, this is just advertising stuff. And you wouldn't even open it. So what marketers realize is if they put something into the book, right, like a pen or a key ring or something that makes it lumpy, people open it just to see what the hell it is. They ain't got to open it. So that's why a couple of my clients who do direct mail, you'd use lumpy mail, but they realized what was happening is, yes, the open rates went up. So the conversions did go up using lumpy mail, but they were still spending a lot of money, and people are basically keeping the lumpy thing and then not reading the stuff and throwing it away. They're just like, oh, I got a key ring or I got a pen. And then they're still not reading the bump that came with it. Yeah. So instead, what they do is with targeted lists, they now send a copy of their book out. Or if it's less targeted lists and they don't want to waste money printing out books for people who are not going to be. I've even had people have done, one gentleman, he was brilliant. He sent them a sachet of hot chocolate. And he's saying, this is your free cup of hot chocolate. Go to this landing page and you can get a copy of my book for free. Post and packaging they have to pay for. So we're back to the old post and packaging. And whatever problem he's solving, conversions went through the roof. So can you see it's all about whatever lead generating you're doing, however you're doing, whether you're doing organic, whether you're doing ads, however you find leads for your business, how do you add a book into the equation? Because then your conversions go through the roof.
Yeah, it just ramps
up.
So
Writing a book isn't about you write the book and the world stops turning. I wish that was the case.
That's a real reality check there. It really is. It's interesting, isn't it? You just need that extra special bit of magic, and that magic is the effort you put into the book. Because unless you're going to republish at a later date, most of the stuff in a book is going to be evergreen. If it's about human beings, generally we're going to be staying the same. There's not too much that's going to massively different, unless you're talking about a tech book maybe. But that book becomes the magic dust you sprinkle into everything that you do. So
I like that magic dust that you sprinkle. That's exactly what it is. You have that credibility and authority now. I mean, I have some clients who, I think I've said this before, they don't actually want any PR and marketing. All they're literally using their books for is to send to certain people within the industry and just start the conversation with these people and be taken seriously by those people. So that could be if you're already reaching out to CEOs and other, COOs, CFOs, all these C-suite people, and you're reaching out to those people, you probably sound like everybody else trying to reach out to them. But now if you send them a copy of your book with a handwritten note, it's like, okay, this person's serious. They're sending me a copy of their book.
That's the
Do you know what I mean?
difference.
So it's whatever you're doing, how do you sprinkle, as you say, some of that magic dust as you have as an author? That's the way to leverage your book.
I think people, when they see a book, don't necessarily think, oh, they know what they're talking about, although that is part of the conversation. But it's also this, oh, they've made an effort.
Yeah. And that goes a long way. It goes a huge, there's a reason why people respect authors, and that's because when you write a book, if you've done it right anyway, you really sat there and thought about it and structured it. One of the nicest things I get from my clients, and this is like an unexpected an unexpected side effect, a good side effect that I didn't realize when I started helping people write books way back in 2018. I didn't expect this. I was really focusing on the book gives you outwardly, gives you more credibility, authority. It means when you do your marketing and lead generation, you have that extra oomph now for people to take you seriously. That's what I was focusing on. But after my first few clients started to come back to me after they published their books and said, the unexpected thing they found was they're now very aware of their mission, their impact, and what they're doing. It's not like they weren't aware before, but it was all jumbled up in their head.
Brings it into focus, doesn't it?
Exactly. And now I even had one gentleman say he's a keynote speaker. He says, every speech that I'm ever really going to give is already in my book. I just need to tweak it for different audiences. And obviously things will change over the years. But the main guts of it, everything I really need to say, he called it his true north. His book was his true north.
That's lovely.
And I thought that's amazing. And I wasn't really talking about it in those terms until some of my clients started to come back to me. One lady called it her manifesto. So this is my manifesto. This is how I show up in the world. I thought, isn't that amazing? That means everywhere she now goes, she can go on a podcast. She can be interviewed by a journalist. She can be speaking to her next door neighbor. It doesn't really matter. She's got clarity, complete clarity as to who she is and why she does what she does and what kind of solutions she brings to the world.
Do you know what? It's a privilege to do that effort and write a book. And it would be a privilege, I'm sure, for anybody to work with you to get their book out there, providing they could get over the hurdle.
Yes, impress me first. Impress me first.
Listen, I know you're a very busy lady, Mitali, so I won't keep you any longer. Thank you for giving us a real insight into why on earth we should write not just any old book, but the book that defines who we are, that gives us our true North Star. I think that was amazing. And builds our business to help as many people as we can, because ultimately people that you work with and people that I work with are the ones that are out there making a massive positive impact on other businesses and other people's lives.
Yes.
So keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing. Thank you for being part of the Collaboration Global community. If anybody wants to get hold of you and just have a little chat and say, I've got this idea for a book, or even I've got a book and I don't know what to do with it now. How do they get hold of you?
Well, the best place is just go to theveganpublisher.com. So that's theveganpublisher.com, and you should find me. Or you can just put in The Vegan Publisher or my ridiculously long surname into any social media and you will find me. I keep testing this every year, folks, where I try to see if there will be another Deypurkaystha in the world. There isn't. The only Deypurkaysthas you will find is me and my siblings. So as I said to a friend of mine, I'm a stalker's wet dream, aren't I? I can just be found so easily. So yes, just come and find me and speak to me if you want to talk about books.
Fabulous. And also, quite often, you will spot Mitali in the audience at a Collaboration Global guest session. So if you want to come along to one of those, you don't have to have a business. You can just come along and be inspired by the amazing speakers, the people that you get to have great conversations with. And you can find us, go to collaborationglobal.org and you can book in there, or just go to Eventbrite and you'll find us on there as well. Look for Jill Tiny, look for Collaboration Global, and you can book yourself into one of our monthly sessions. Thank you again, Mitali. You've been an absolute dream. Look forward to part 3 maybe in a few months' time.
Why not?
Okay, take care.